closest town was probably five miles, and so the phone service was not very good. And it was a party line with 3 other people on it. So you had to listen and see if anybody was talking before you rang or somebody called you, you know.
It was different because you did have to wait for someone to call to ask you out. They didn't ask you at school, but you still expected them to if you were planning to see one another, a lot of times then they would still call to confirm on the phone, so you would know you had a set time to see one another. And it was, the anticipation was neat. It made it more special when you did see them. I think it would be different if I was waiting for somebody to come pick me up and he was calling on the phone, the cell phone the whole time on the way there, or texting me before I got there. I think it would take some of that surprise, some of the butterflies away, which I think they're kind of a good thing. They're kind of helps you know what you're feeling. Being in an argument and waiting on the phone for them to call and trying to call them, and that phone, no one answered the phone. So you just kind of wait, and it was kind of a bad feeling. Nowadays you would know that they know I'm calling. We didn't even have caller ID back then. So nowadays, you know, everyone has caller ID, so they know they've missed a call. Like, yeah, they're trying to call me. Back then you wouldn't even know that they knew you were trying to call.
I remember whenever I was younger and I would have a boy call my house, and first, like, my dad would pick up or something embarrassing, and he would have to talk to my dad for a little bit, and then I would sit in my closet and hide so that my family wouldn't hear me. But then they would just put it on speaker so everyone heard, and they would make fun of me for all the stupid stuff I said. So embarrassing.
The telephone call is a dying institution. The number of text messages sent monthly in the U.S. exploded from 14 billion in 2000 to 188 billion in 2010, according to a Pew Institute survey. Americans ages 18 to 29 send and receive an average of 88 text messages per day. Developmental psychologists studying the impact of texting worry especially about young people, not just because they are avid users of technology, but because of their interpersonal skills.
Well, I got my first cell phone whenever I was in 7th grade, and really the only person I ever texted was like my sister and my friend Rita, so it really wasn't like, and I mean I wasn't talking to boys when I was in 7th grade either, but not a lot of my friends had cell phones. But I mean, by the time you start dating, you have a cell phone, everyone has a cell phone, you know, in high school everyone has cell phones, so you're always in contact with everyone.
My daughter is always texting her friend. He always knows what she's doing, she always knows what he's doing. So there's no surprise, there's no waiting by the phone to talk to him, to be excited to hear what he's been doing, because she already knew what he was doing the whole time.
He would just text me like, oh, do you want to hang out sometime, do you want to hang out sometime? And granted, I did not see him very often, so he was trying to see me, but he would just text me all the time like, oh, let's hang out, let's hang out, let's hang out, and I wouldn't respond for like a ton of times. He would text me a lot, and I just wouldn't respond because I didn't really want to, because I don't know, I didn't see the connection, because I guess you don't really get a connection through text like you do in person. Oh yeah, like you send a really gutsy text and you hover over the send button, and then eventually you send it and you're like freaking out because you don't know like what they'll think about it, and then they take like 20 minutes to text back. That's the worst. And when they do text back, you're like, I think it's different. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, because like I never experienced a relationship without texting, you know? So I think it probably is harmful, because too much of a good thing, you know, sometimes turns into a bad thing. Like, if you need some alone time, how do you get alone time if you're constantly like in touch with the world?
That the texting, you can say things in texting that you would be uncomfortable possibly saying in person. It allows you to have a relationship that it would be harder to have if you were having to talk to someone one-on-one. And I think it kills the relationship, the emotion part of it.
Texting isn't the only thing changing the dating scene. Social media now plays a large role in all types of relationships, including romantic ones. Worldwide, Facebook users spend 10.5 billion minutes each day surfing the site, and that doesn't even include mobile usage. According to Facebook's IPO filing system, collectively, that's nearly 20 years per day that people are spending their lives online rather than in person. A survey on the site Badoo found that 39% of Americans spend more time socializing online instead of in person, and 20% actually prefer communicating online rather than face-to-face.
Yeah, my first boyfriend actually asked me out over MSN. Not really my boyfriend, he was just, I think it was 13. He, asked me, "Will you be my girlfriend on MSN?" And I was just like, sure, I guess.
I think social media there's good things about it and there's bad things, but I think that it's kind of like when you say you have 100 friends, but you've never met them. How can they be a friend if they're not somebody that you have a relationship with or communication with, or actually ever met them in person? It's hard to have a connection with them, a real connection. I think it takes the humanity out of friendships.
Like everybody else has the internet or something like that, and I don't have it, and I don't miss it, and I get along just fine.
We may never feel the anticipation of receiving a letter from a loved one at war, or a crush who said he would call you later, or a husband who walks in late after working all day. These simple moments of anticipation are ones this generation of instant gratification and communication will never know.
Well, just by letters back then, you couldn't be calling from overseas. See, he was in the Philippines almost every day. Sometimes they'd pile up, you get 3 or 4 in a day, and I think we both wrote every day about. If I didn't get a letter, I'd wonder why I didn't get one that day. But see, they didn't always come right on through.
I was only stood up one time, and that was by my husband. And before we were married, first date I had with him, he stood me up, but and I didn't hear him. I was living with my sister, and she was madder than I was. I was all ready, and he never did come. So the next night, I never heard from him. And so the next night, he showed up at the door, and she answered the door, and she was really mad. But he had a thing, he had cut his foot real bad, his foot. They had glass rounds in the bathroom, and the glass round broke, I guess, when he had a hold of it, flipped over and went through his foot, so he had to go to the hospital, and that's why he didn't show up. So she told him no, that he couldn't see me because he stood me up. So after a fashion then, we got together, and I didn't go with anybody else after that. But when I met my husband, we just more or less made our dates ahead of time, and we would talk very little on the phone though. We made our dates like next time would be the next date, like if it was Thursday or Friday, then it would be maybe Sunday or whenever he could get off his work, But we went together for 6 months, and then we got married. And I was married 54 years. It's just really a loss when you lose your husband after you've been married that long. I still miss him, He was my whole life. So
it is like a constant, I'll check Twitter. And I don't know if it's like a need. It's more of just, it's just something you do now. It's just a habit. Checking Twitter, checking Facebook, just to see what everyone's doing. It's not like I need to know. It's not like I care. It's not like I even read them really. It's just I scroll through them and see what's going on. I really think that makes our generation different from our predecessors, but I think the children now are probably they're getting cell phones younger, but I think that I don't think they're going to grow up any differently, really.